Station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
And tonight on DC News Now at 5, kept out of the loop on school safety. Parents outraged with the Loudoun County School Board as officials decide not to release their findings in a sexual assault investigation.
Being matched to a housing voucher isn't the same as actually having housing.
Clearing McPherson Square, why some of the solutions for those experiencing homelessness does not fully address the problem. Also, stretching your dollar, we hear from consumers on how they're navigating inflation and the new ways they're finding to stay afloat.
And what a day it was out there, feeling like pure springtime. Very warm temperatures and plenty of sunshine, but when will the sunshine be replaced by some rain, and when will the temperatures drop? We'll have a check of the forecast here in just a bit.
Thank you, Damon, and thank you for joining us for DC News Now at 5. I'm Mark Hall. Breaking now, a man is dead after he was dragged by a metro train in Vienna, Virginia. It happened in the middle of the day at the Dunn-Lauren station. And that is where we find DC News Now's Max Marcilla. And Max, just a tragic scene out there.
It really was. It was almost a nightmare scene. One person we spoke with who was there when it happened said it was just simply horrible, a true tragedy. The man, what we know now from WMATA and Metro, the information that they've put out was the man was on the platform. He had a dog on the train. The dog was on a leash and the leash was tied to the man. So when the train started going, the man was dragged by that train, first on the platform, then onto the tracks, suffering injuries. He was brought to the hospital. They attempted to save his life. Unfortunately, they could not. Again, just such a tragic situation. We're learning more right now about the safety measures that were in place. We've been told by WMATA that the train operator, who was about 450 feet away from where this happened, did perform 2 safe door checks. But ultimately, again, this ended in a tragedy. Again, we're learning more. We don't know who the man is. We know the dog is safe and in police custody, being taken care of. But again, we're still waiting to learn more about some of the safety measures and whether or not they work. This incident is being fully investigated. We're going to keep an eye on that safety aspect of this. And coming up at 6, you'll hear from someone, a Metro rider who takes this line every day to get to work, about some of the concerns he has and the message for WMATA. Reporting live in Northern Virginia, Max Marcilla, DC News Now.
Max, thank you. Plenty of anger directed right now at the Loudoun County School Board. It decided not to release the report of its investigation into how school district handled 2 sexual assaults by the same student. The decision came during last night's school board meeting. Our Dave Laval has followed the reaction to that decision. He joins us right outside of district headquarters. Dave, you talked to many parents. What are they saying?
Mark, just like what you said, they are definitely upset. They want to know further why the school board members chose the action that they did in not releasing that report. And based on last night's meeting and the time and the extra time that parents have had to think about all of this, well, that anger's growing tonight.
I think the public has the right to know.
Raj Shurish is not happy with the Loudoun County School Board.
That motion will fail 3-6.
The board voted Tuesday night not to release an independent review of its actions to the public regarding 2 sexual assaults involving a student 2 years ago.
Now, we commissioned this study, and I really, truly believe that we need this report to our superiors.
Being open and transparent is incredibly important, but so is the rights of our students and staff to be able to communicate with legal counsel without it being made public.
The unidentified student first sexually assaulted a female student at Stonebridge High School in May 2021. He was allowed to transfer to Broad Run High School, where he abducted and sexually assaulted another student in October of the same year. A juvenile court eventually convicted the teen.
They need to know. They have every right to know.
Shurith is especially concerned since her daughter is in her sophomore year at Stonebridge.
Our children are at stake, so we need to make sure that these things don't happen.
I do think, it's also imperative to kind of respect the privacy of the fact that we do have underage individuals.
But Miguel Irivarden is open to the report being made public.
When the school system is kind of abusing its powers and not respecting the rights of parents to determine the future of their kids, and one of that would be if something like a sexual assault occurred.
Virginia's Attorney General released his report by a special grand jury last December. It found school district administrators looked out for their own interests regarding the assaults. There are now growing calls from the public to find out what the school board's report uncovered.
The school board fired Superintendent Scott Ziegler after the release of the grand jury report. He and former district spokesman Wade Byard are awaiting trial on charges related to that investigation. We're live in Ashburn. Dave Laval, DC News Now.
All right, Dave, thank you. And starting off tonight, look with a beautiful look outside. You can see the Capitol. The sun is shining. We saw temperatures in parts of the DMV reach the 70s. Is it too good to be true? Let's head on over now to meteorologist Damon Matson with a check on the forecast. And Damon, I thought I saw some clouds out there. Should we be concerned?
Well, the clouds aren't really impacting much. They are, of course, taking out that sunshine a little bit, but hey, it's not impacting how warm it has been today. Now, we officially reached 70 degrees in a lot of locations this afternoon, that including back over toward Dulles, BWI, so some of the official climate recording sites. Now, DCA, right near Washington, D.C., not quite there yet, but we've been hovering just below that 70-degree mark. We're waiting on the official temperature recording to come through, and then we can check out whether or not we did, just for a brief moment, hit 70 in D.C., but there you have it. We have 70s across the board in mid-February. Crazy stuff. Now, it is still very mild out there this evening, down into the upper 60s. That's all the more we've cooled off in many locations, and it's likely to continue to stay very mild. And yesterday was a warm one. Look at how much we've warmed up since 24 hours ago, a good 10 to 15 degrees in most locations. And it's not been enough to break any records, but this is still very amazing stuff for this time of year. Check it out this evening. We will notice more of those clouds. They're not going to be much of a concern, though. We're not talking rainfall anytime here in the next few hours. And look at those temperatures. We're still in the 60s by 8 o'clock this evening. You hardly even need a jacket out there, folks. And all this warm weather may have you thinking about spring. Hey, the countdown's on. It's only 33 days away, and we are waiting until March the 20th. But if you want something to look forward to, we're still going to gain almost an hour and a half of daylight in that time leading up to the first day of spring. So pretty amazing stuff. But when do we see these temperatures correct back to cooler readings? We'll have a full check of that forecast here in just a bit.
Like most of the other encampment closures, the population will scatter.
In the district today, the National Park Service closed down a homeless encampment at McPherson Square Park. The clearing was in response to a request by the deputy mayor's office due to illegal drug activity and health and safety reasons. Well, a lot of people from McPherson Square are likely to congregate elsewhere, though some resources have been provided by the district. Our Daniel Hamburg talked with a local reporter from Street Sense, focused solely on issues of the homeless. And Daniel, she says that district resources could become even tighter in a few months.
Well, Mark, shelter beds are already running near capacity, and with some pandemic-era programs ending and renovations happening this year, some fear that D.C. could run out of space. Nonprofits and the D.C. government have been working to find resources for the dozens of people kicked out of McPherson Square Wednesday, but some say it's not enough.
Being matched to a housing voucher isn't the same as actually having housing. It's currently taking like several months for people to move from the point of being identified as, okay, you're eligible for a housing voucher to actually moving into housing. Anne-Marie Kucha is a reporter for Street Sense, a paper focused on housing and homelessness, sold by many vendors experiencing homelessness. I think a lot of people are saying, you know, we would love, like, we want vouchers, like we would like to be able to get into housing, but that moving people around, people often losing contact with their case manager, might not be the best way to do that. Some people have found temporary housing in hotels through DC's PEP-V program that started during the pandemic for medically vulnerable people, but that will be ending soon. That program had about 660 beds, And there's not a firm date on closure yet, but they're not allowing more people to enter, and I think it's closing by the end of the fiscal year.
Another 2 shelters will be temporarily closed for renovation this summer. Kucha says totaling 787 beds lost over the next year. But some don't want to be in shelters for safety reasons.
Some advocates have called for either PEP-V to continue to be funded or for another non-congregate shelter to open.
On Monday, Mayor Bowser touted a new building called the Ethel to house the homeless in apartments and give them job resources in-house, but it won't help everyone.
I only heard of this place today, just a few minutes ago. Why should that be? We are not being educated enough.
I did reach out to the D.C. Department of Health and Human Services for more specific answers about when these people are going to get into housing and just how fast this could happen, but I did not hear back. In the newsroom, Daniel Hamburg, D.C. News Now.
Daniel, thank you. A K-9 to the rescue. A police dog in Alexandria helped find a woman who investigators say assaulted an 81-year-old woman. The dog helped with the arrest of one suspect and will continue the search for the second one. Well, new tonight, the budget battle in Congress is starting to heat up. President Biden has until the summer to agree to a deal with Republicans regarding spending cuts and reducing the national debt. If not, the GOP is threatening to not raise the debt ceiling. Today, President Biden called out Republicans for wanting spending cuts but not giving any advice on what to cut. However, a Texas senator blames the reckless spending on the president.
The single biggest cause for the increase in the debt is President Biden and Democrats over the last 2 years. He knows this is unsustainable.
Republicans will release a budget proposal on March 9th along with the White House. And happening tonight, the town of East Palestine, Ohio, where dozens of train cars derailed nearly 2 weeks ago, is having an open house to answer questions about what happened that day and what's happening moving forward. Around 10 of the 50 cars that ran off the tracks were found to have hazardous materials on them. And while many people have been cleared to return home, some in the community are reporting lingering odors and a burning sensation in their eyes.
I was kind of surprised that when they quickly told the people they can go back home, but then said if they feel like they want their homes tested, they can have them tested.
And the open house starts at 7 p.m.